Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday at 7:30, so you know what that means. Another episode of the football show with no name. So tonight we have Big Ferg, Jeff on the left-hand side of me, Ian the Champ on the bottom. Lauren Hudat is not going to join us today. She is feeling a little under the weather. So Lauren, I hope you feel better. And I know this is a football show. I talked to the guys before the show, telling them I'm going to throw a little curveball at them at the beginning, and didn't tell them what we were doing. So,
surprise!
RIP to Bobby Knight,
Yes.
basketball legend, died today at the ripe age of 83.
Hey,
Most people remember Bob Knight for the choking or the chair throwing, but he was very, very integral to the community and in Indiana when he was coaching there. And, he was a great coach, Hall of Fame coach. And so RIP to Bobby Knight. So I just wanted to say that. So I didn't know if you guys had anything to say. Yeah, man. Because I know that's what I'm saying, Ian. I know you say you don't like college sports like that.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby.
But you know who Bobby Knight is.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Knight is. I mean, he was the youngest. He was the youngest ever Division I head coach when he was at Army in 65. I made and 600 wins. I mean, he was a living legend. Now he's passed on, which is very sad. He's controversial. There's some people. There's one. It's the type of people that you'll either love him or you'll hate him. There's not going to be any like real middle ground. But
yeah, he was definitely a polarizing figure for sure.
When it came to coaching, he was a legend. He was
a legend.
Dean Smith and Mike Krzyzewski and Lenny Wilkens. He's a legend.
Yep. Absolutely. So RIP Bobby Knight. All right. So now, while we're all here and y'all are out there listening, feel free to drop comments, drop a follow on the YouTube, click that bell so you know when we're going live. And now the big story of the week is the trade deadline, which passed on Tuesday. So yesterday at 4 p.m. So there was a lot of movement, not really at the deadline. That's more of a baseball thing, but it was like before and the week before leading up to the deadline. So the biggest one I think that we all are probably talking about is Chase Young going to reunite with his college teammate, Mr. Joey Bosa, in San Francisco. And if Chase Young can stay healthy, that's pretty scary.
Chase Young went to the 49ers.
Yeah, he went to the Niners. Right. Oh, sorry, it's with Bosa. Nick Bosa, there we go. Yeah, his teammate, they were 19 and 20 teammates, or 19 teammates at Ohio State.
Yeah, Chase Young is probably the biggest name that was moved. Along with him and Montez Sweat, part of it, you got to I kind of wonder whether they have been underwhelming as professionals, whether that's been because of the system that they've been in and the team that they've been on. Like Washington has never really been much, and they're both great players and they're both humongous names. But after 7 years of it, you kind of wonder how much of it is just the name. Mm-hmm. Not throwing shade at Chase Young at all. He's a phenomenal talent when he was in college.
Yes, and for sure.
Tore his ACL, his rookie year, second year?
Yep, rookie year.
Yep. So how much of it is a name? I guess being in a different situation in San Francisco where he may not ask to be the man anymore. Nick Bosa's there. You got Javon Hargrave is there. He's not going to be just the man. So you want
a couple things. So number one, the kid's free of the franchise, which is, historically one of the worst since Snyder has been there, or the worst franchise to play for. I have a friend of mine that played there, and he didn't say otherwise. I'll just say that. And Ferg and I have a friend, Kiasha. So shout out Kiasha if you're listening. She is a diehard Washington fan. She will not say Commanders. She's a Washington fan. She said she wishes they would have stayed with the football team. But when I told her Chase Young, when I talking to her about Chase Young yesterday, she was like, honestly, Sweat was the bigger loss. But it's kind of like a fire sale. It's like we've been so good for so long. For people saying we have good defense, but we can't get a team together. And now that Snyder's gone, we're going to be able to get a team together. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see. But he's definitely the biggest name. But I think when it comes to impact, it would probably be Sweat, probably.
Sweat.
Yeah,
of the two,
definitely
yeah,
Sweat.
I
Of the
mean,
two. Yeah.
of the two of them, I think Sweat is probably the bigger impact. I think
And he
Chase
went to
Young
the
probably
Bears.
has-
So why are the Bears buying?
The
I think
Bears
the
are spending.
Bears,
They're
the
pre-spending
Bears,
for next
yeah.
year.
So the
They're pre-spending.
Bears, the Bears are a very interesting story. Jeff is absolutely correct. They are pre-spending. Coming
Mhm.
into this next offseason, the Bears are going to have something like $122 million
Million.
under the cap that
Okay.
they will be able to spend. So they are probably going to have 2 top 5 picks. They'll have their own. They'll have Carolina's.
Right.
So if they decide to buy in to Justin Fields and keep him and not go after Drake or Caleb or one of these other quarterbacks, if they keep Justin Fields, now you've got 2 really high picks that you can go after skill positions. Or offensive line, you go after defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, an upgrade in wide receiver. There's a lot of positions, but you've got all of this money, this $122 million under the cap. Spend it on Sweat. He's wasn't
That's worth it.
Sweat was not a first round. He wasn't a first round pick.
No.
So this is his 4th year. So he'll be a UFA. So he's eligible for a new contract. Sign him, and now you've got another cog in your defensive line. Chicago's doing it right. They're building from the
we'll
base
see about that because they
They're trying to do it
historically
right.
don't do it right.
Well,
right?
Ryan Poles
it's the
he
difference
inherited a mess, and now he's clean. He has
So
thoroughly cleaned that mess up.
Yeah.
Like
No,
that's,
he
that's
definitely-
a perfect situation.
It's a question of, when I say doing it right, what I mean is you're building a team, and know that it's going to take 2, 3, 4 years, rather than what Washington tried to do over and over and over again, is have a bad team and sign 10 top 10 free agents and try to build a super team for 1 year. It doesn't work.
So you give somebody to compliment DJ Moore, right? And on the other side, right? I mean, you have the running game, you think with Khalil Herbert, but you gotta, maybe you take one of those, because honestly, y'all, they could be on pace to get the top number 1 and number 2 pick in the NFL.
So it's
draft.
funny that you guys are talking
right?
about this topic. I was listening to sports radio here today, and one of the hosts, we're in Charlotte, I'm in the Charlotte market, and he was talking about how he woke up this morning with his all-time worst nightmare. And his worst nightmare was that Christian McCaffrey and Sam Darnold both get Super Bowl rings out in San Francisco with Steve Wilkes all getting a ring, while simultaneously us winning enough games to not get a decent pick, or not have the Bears get 1 and 2, and then have to watch Drake May from North Carolina catch passes to DJ Moore from Carolina next to Marvin Harrison Jr. for the next 10 years.
Well, because that's the pick to me.
It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. So Ferg froze a little bit.
He's cold. He's cold.
Well,
I want to say
having connectivity issues. What I was saying, Ian, is that if you get DJ Moore some help, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who said you don't need necessarily to have another good receiver on the side of a really good receiver. You just need to have like a competent receiver. And I was like, to me, the perfect number 2 receiver of all time, when I think about a number 2 receiver, is Muhsin Muhammad, right? To Steve Smith.
Everything's Carolina.
Right. Well, no, and I'm not a Panthers fan. That's just what I think of, like with like a perfect number 2 compliment. Like,
no, I would say a perfect number 2 who could be a number 1 anywhere else and wound up being a number 1 is Reggie Wayne. I mean, Marvin Harrison was the number 1 in Indianapolis. Reggie Wayne was the perfect number 2 there. That was like, that's
for sure. Yeah, so it was like Andre Rison and Don Beebe, right? Or was Don Beebe the
Don
3?
Beebe. Don Beebe. Wow, you took that one way back. It's early 90s. I wanted to say, though, while we were talking about some of these free agent moves, I mean, there were a couple of other moves that are potentially big. I'm going to save who I think is the biggest one for last. You have Russell Douglas moved from Green Bay to Buffalo. Buffalo is hurting in their secondary. It's a potentially big move to shore up that back end. One that I don't understand, Donovan Peoples-Jones going to the Lions. The Lions have enough wide receivers. And frankly, I got to tell you, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones moving out of Cleveland doesn't help Donovan Peoples-Jones so much as it helps Elijah Moore.
Well, here's what it does help. He goes from playing outside in Cleveland to playing inside in Detroit.
Yeah,
he goes to a much better quarterback situation. But what I've heard about this situation is that he is the replacement for Marvin Jones. That's what he is.
Yeah, but Marvin Jones
Did they need one?
Marvin Jones wasn't anything. I mean,
they don't believe it, Jameson Williams.
I'll tell you,
according to Power Football Focus or Pro Football Focus?
Pro Football Focus.
Jameson Williams is the lowest rated quarterback with 150 targets.
Yeah,
lowest rated wide receiver with over 150 targets.
I mean, the biggest name that moved.
They don't believe in him.
Which really was a really big move. Is Leonard Williams getting out of New York, going to Seattle. Seattle right now is in first place in the NFC West. They have
3 straight losses for San Fran.
I think they and San Fran have identical 5-3 records. Tiebreaker would go to Seattle. And they're building, like, Geno Smith is not having as great a year as he did last year. DK is off. Tyler Lockett is getting
Kenneth Walker's good though.
Kenneth Walker is starting to get some. He's starting to get some load management there. They're starting to quote unquote rest.
Charbonnet's good.
You're seeing
Charbonnet's a good bet.
You're seeing some more of Zach, I think,
and that's fine.
Which I mean, if you have two,
that's fine.
From a fantasy perspective,
you can start both of them.
Yeah, you can absolutely start.
Charbonnet's a great flex.
I mean, they're building that defense there. There's never going to be another Legion of Boom. But Leonard Williams is a man among men. I mean, him getting out of New York twice, Jets to Giants and Giants out west.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does definitely hurt that Giants defense that's been actually pretty good. Like, it's been really good this year.
Nothing.
They just can't score.
There's nothing good about the Giants.
No, they just can't score.
Trash.
That's not the defensive fault. Look at all their games are low scoring. You know what I mean? So it's kind of crazy.
That's why I picked up the Raiders defense this week. They're hosting the Giants. And speaking of the Raiders, how about that for a transition? That was good.
That was a good transition.
That was good.
They teach that at Syracuse.
So this is kind of crazy, right? So they fired McDaniels. They fire their GM, and
bench Jimmy Porn.
They bench Jimmy G, which we'll get to in a second. But they're cleaning house in Las Vegas. Now, is Al Davis going to make the right decision hiring a head coach? No, we all know that he's not going to.
Well, Mark, we hope Al is not making calls.
Al is not making it.
I hope Al is not wheeling and dealing. Mark,
Al. Sorry, Mark. So, and the fact that they promoted their quarterback coach to head coach.
No. Linebacker coach Antonio Pierce.
Antonio
Pierce, who used to play for the Giants.
A former Giant.
Rejoice, Jeff. You have another black head coach. Rejoice. Interim,
but now,
rejoice.
For now.
9 weeks. We get 9 weeks. 9 weeks temp assignment.
He is the Steve Wilkes of this year.
Yes, he probably will be. He probably will be.
Antonio Pierce, Jeff, definitely Jeff, maybe Clint. I'm not sure how Clint's going to react to this. I think I know how Jeff will. I am really kind of paralleling, because I know nothing about Antonio Pierce, but I'm paralleling this interim hire to Jeff Saturday. He is, and here's why. He's a person who has no head coaching experience at any level. Antonio Pierce is coaching the linebackers. Both of them were professionals. Both of them are big locker room guys. They're rah guys. They're going to hype. They're going to hype the team up, and they're going to try to get whatever they can out of it. I've read limited amount on Antonio Pierce. I know him as a football player in Washington, in New York.
Well, here's the difference, though, is that Saturday was around the program. Pierce is in the program.
Yeah,
right? So the difference is that you're hired. The Jeff Saturday hire. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a Saturday fan, and I think most people are Jeff Saturday fans. It
was a bad hire. It was a bad look.
Right? But like hiring him from the booth to the sideline was weird.
No, I get it.
Right? Was weird, but they tried to stay within the family. So they tried to do the UNC thing and stay in the family, right? And it just didn't work. It just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Pierce may do very well. We don't know. Typically, if your coach is fired and you're trying to produce something, you're gonna promote one of your coordinators, offensive or defensive, regardless whatever the strength of your team is. I couldn't tell you who the Raiders' offensive and defensive coordinators were if they were sitting right next to me.
It was McDaniels. Wasn't it McDaniels?
He was the OC.
He was doing everything.
He was
and
he
the
was,
DC
he,
and the head
he
coach.
was the play, you know what? I read
He was the play caller.
I read something on the socials because that's apparently where I live about the Raiders, and somebody posted Josh McDaniels has been fired, free Davante. And I wrote back, like, is Josh McDaniels blocking the defense and Josh McDaniels throwing the passes? Is he calling the plays? Sure. He's calling bad plays, but you still got professionals. Davante Adams, if you're catching 1 of 7 passes and dropping first downs in the fourth quarter when they need you, Josh McDaniels is not all the problem.
Right. So let me ask, did you see the 2 passes that Jimmy missed?
I watched the whole game.
One of them was a 90-yard touchdown. The other one was a 60-yard touchdown, and Jimmy missed him by miles. Like, it wasn't even close. And there was nobody around Davante.
Nobody.
So, to be honest, I don't think the play calling is the issue. It's definitely the quarterback. It's definitely the quarterback.
Well, that's why the GM got it, too, because you brought him in here.
Yeah,
you brought
Jimmy G in. Yeah.
Jeff, so Josh McDaniels, our friend Matt, who is in our Any Given Sunday League, is a die-hard until he dies New England Patriots fan. He lives and breathes Patriots. And he's made a comment in our league chat today, basically calling the Raiders New England West, which really look at the number of people that came to Vegas with Josh McDaniels. And it's the same, pardon my language, the offense in New England is the same clusterfuck that it is in Las Vegas right now. The only good thing he did was bring Jacoby Myers, and that's only a good thing if you don't have Davante Adams on your squad. I mean, it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation.
Jacoby was more successful than Davante without Jimmy G.
Well, y'all know the reason. It's because Jimmy G can't throw the ball more than 10 yards from scrimmage, and so Jacoby Myers runs those little quick routes, and Davante's the one getting open down the field, and poor Michael Mayer, because he's a really good tight end. He's a really good player.
He's got a lot of potential. Yeah, a lot of potential there.
Yeah. So it's kind of bonkers, right? The whole situation. So let's dig into this next topic that we're going to talk about, starting with the Raiders, and we're going to start talk about the new starting quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start with the reason that the person that is replacing Mr. Jimmy G is Aiden O'Connell,
who has started one other game. He started a game, one of the games when Jimmy G was out earlier in the year with his back. Brian Hoyer started one. Aiden started one. You know, the interesting thing, they lost both games, but the interesting thing is they were more competitive when Aiden O'Connell started over Brian Hoyer or Jimmy G. Can
you look up his stats for that game that he started?
I can.
See what it was.
I did earlier from a fantasy perspective, and what I saw was in the game that Aiden O'Connell started, the game was more competitive. He had like 8.6 points, nothing huge.
Okay.
Josh Jacobs.
So he didn't lose the game.
He didn't lose. Threw 2 picks. He threw 2 picks, but he threw for 300.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs had 27 points in that game. So if you're a Josh Jacobs manager, you're loving seeing Aiden O'Connell.
Well, and also Josh Jacobs has been better than he was in the beginning of the year, and so whenever Aiden, like, he's getting so many opportunities, Josh Jacobs is, right? Yeah. And he's been trash, but the last couple games he's actually been really good.
Josh
Right.
Jacobs is turning into the poster child. Unfortunately for running backs, is turning into the poster child of why you don't give them mega deals. Because look at what he tried to hold out. He got franchised. He wanted his
Yep.
deal. He didn't get it.
Yep.
And now the Raiders and
Yep.
31 other owners are saying, "Told you."
Nope.
Which
Well, that's why they don't
unfair.
spend money on running backs. That's why people don't spend money on running backs.
It's not fair,
Right?
but
That
it
we
is.
talked about this. We talked about this like a bunch on a
Many
couple
weeks.
of shows.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're not paying the running backs, and I get it, but then there's like the exceptions to the rule that people are like, why would you not pay these guys? Like the APs of the world, right? The Derrick Henrys.
Mhm.
You know, why would you not play? Like, do you think Travis Etienne isn't going to get a contract if he stays healthy throughout the rest of the year? Because
he will probably
maybe not from Jacksonville.
He will probably get franchised. That's
He'll
probably
get
what's
franchise tag. He'll be
get
hurt by
franchised.
then.
and he'll get the same $11.5 million or whatever it is, and
might be 12 then.
and-
But yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Somebody got
I
a
mean,
deal this year that might skew it. Who just
Jonathan
got the
Taylor.
last deal?
JT
Jonathan
got it.
Taylor. So.
JT got a deal. That'll skew it up to maybe like 13, but
Yeah.
it's still grossly underpaid in comparison to other skill
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. So I don't know what to expect. I mean, I know that you said that you would be more optimistic. So let's see what the kid can do. I mean, he can't miss any worse than Jimmy G, right?
It's true.
So
I think
could.
so
I think the moral I think the moral of this story is stream the Raiders defense. Sorry, stream whoever is playing the Raiders.
Playing against the Raiders defense.
I think it's
playing against the
Cleveland.
This
Is it
week,
Cleveland?
This week they're hosting the Giants.
Giants.
So you
okay.
definitely. So I picked up the Raiders defense.
I picked up
Jeff-
the Giants defense.
yeah.
So yeah, I
Jeff,
get it.
I don't want Cleveland anymore. I've got the Raiders. I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
fine.
So
You're
so
trying to hustle
speaking
me
of,
anyway.
and
Mini
Ian,
burger.
you are the king of segues today. Let's talk about the Giants for a second because you said their third string started. Can you tell me this kid's name?
He didn't start. His name is Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito.
He is a local
Not
kid,
on your waiver wire.
not
Not
on,
on your
waiver wire.
not
Not on your waiver
available. Listen, honestly, not even in a best ball league. Not even his mother drafted him.
Right. No,
Um,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean Daniel Jones on the Giants. He is.
They said he's coming back, right?
His nerve issue is more than what's being led on. They're saying that he's having some neuropathy weakness down the left side of his body. So
Oh, so he's not
Whether-
coming back.
whether that's a
he's
question
gonna
of
start this
he
week.
just doesn't want to play, or they just don't want him to play, or I don't know what it is, or maybe he's really hurt. I honestly don't know. Tommy DeVito is starting this week, and the Giants. I mean, well, if you don't know, Tommy DeVito only played this week because Tyrod Taylor basically broke every rib in his chest. He was mauled on the sideline, spent a night in the hospital. He's fine.
Okay.
But he's not playing this week. Giants are.
So let's talk about my favorite stats of the week.
Okay.
The Giants had 7 passing yards. Now,
Tyrod went out
Giants,
early.
yeah.
in all fairness, they were playing the Jets, but they had
We need Merle
seven.
We need
passing
Merle
yards.
on here
So,
to defend this.
a couple. We can talk about
There's
this
no
again when the
defense.
commish comes on. But let's talk about this real quick because the leading receiver for the Giants was Darren Waller, and he left after the first play of the game
He
with
had
1
4
catch
yards,
for
yeah.
4 yards. Right?
Okay.
Saquon had 3 catches. Saquon,
for negative.
the catch master, him and Austin Eckler, 3 catches for 0 yards, but he had 36 carries.
That's ridiculous.
Right? 7 passing yards, y'all. 7. They don't run a triple option. They don't do none of that Paul Johnson BS.
Oh.
And 7 passing yards. So it was just crazy. So this
Let me
DeVito
ask you a
kid-
question. Let me ask you a question.
Sure, brother.
Like, I'm not going to try not to veer too far off. But when you watch that, you're watching like DeVito or whatever.
I wasn't.
Are you trying to
Danny
tell
DeVito.
me that Cam and any other number of washed up
Kaepernick.
quarterbacks couldn't be doing that right there? You tell me that dude right there is worthy of a roster spot
Nah.
above any
No.
number of old quarterbacks, whether it be Matt Ryan, Cam, whomever.
Brett
If those
Favre.
dudes wanted to play, they should
Kurt
be
Warner.
able to play if that dude is in the league. That's just
Look,
my opinion.
So
You seen that commercial
so
with the
here's-
old
so-
like with Emmett Smith and Jerry Rice and Kurt
Yeah,
Warner
not
talking
that
about
far
going
back. We
and
don't want to
playing?
go
Yeah.
that far back.
No, look,
Yeah,
I'll take
Damn.
Kurt Warner
So-
over Danny DeVito. Know what I mean?
So no, so here you go. So here's the actual stats. I pulled them up here. Where'd they go? So Darren Waller, Matt Breida each had one reception for 4 yards. Saquon Barkley had his 3 for 0 with a long of 1.
Dang.
Darius Slayton had 1 catch for -1 yard. Tommy
Negative one.
DeVito went 2. Yeah, Tommy DeVito went 2 for 7 for -1 yard. Tyrod went 4
Yo.
for 7 for 8. So there's your 7
Yeah.
yards. But in
Great.
actual
Yeah.
stats, like in actual offensive stats, while they don't count against the quarterback for overall yards, sacks counts towards passing yards, not towards the individual quarterback,
Right.
but towards
Oh
team
yeah, no,
stats.
for sure.
The Giants were sacked 4 times for 16 yards, which means on the day, the Giants actually had negative 7 yards.
Negative
yeah,
passing yards.
It's
It
great.
was.
It's
you
an
don't see-
unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's
Like
uh,
the
it's
worst
a
game
perfect-
and
ever.
whoever had the Jets defense in fantasy was really
Yeah.
loving how that
It's-
turned out.
It's a perfect storm. Tommy
Yep.
DeVito did have the 1 rushing touchdown. Thank you for vulturing Saquon. It was
Yeah,
the perfect
right.
storm of a
Absolute-
backup quarterback getting hurt, a third stringer who has no business, playing
Yep.
for an XFL team, let alone an NFL team. An offensive line which is more porous than a sponge, playing against
And a defense is really good.
a Jets defense. Now their offense still is suspect. The quarterback
sure.
is
Suspect at best.
at best,
At best.
but the defense is something
Exactly.
else.
So there.
It was.
Oh, I
perfect
agree with you
storm.
there.
So
So-
if Tommy DeVito plays again, rev up the Raiders.
All right.
So
we got
are
a
there
couple more-
other than Saquon, are there anyone with the Giants that you would fuck with in fantasy?
Listen,
Not
I'm
right now.
I'm flexing Saquon. If I have another option, I'm throwing another option. He only got 128 yards because he had to carry the ball 36 times. That's
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
3.6 yards a rush. Saquon is injury prone as
Oh, for sure.
is.
Like
You
you
start
don't like he's coming off an injury. He's fresh
He's
off injury. So
40 touches. He had 39 touches. I would
That's way
flex
too much.
Saquon. I wouldn't start him this week if I could avoid it.
no, yeah. I mean, it's always a tough discussion when you're talking about the Giants without a good quarterback, without Daniel Jones in there to give some other threat of passing and or rushing. So we got a couple more to talk about. So we're going to talk about the most interesting one last, at least the most interesting one in my book. So let's go with the Cardinals. And the Cardinals will lead into the next one, ironically. So the Cardinals are starting, what's his name? Tomb?
Clayton
Clayton
Tune.
Tune.
Clayton
6th round
Tune.
pick, rookie.
Okay, so and apparently he's okay. I don't-
Okay.
So they
Is
said
that the
Rookie
baseline
never
for
played.
that's the baseline for NFL quarterbacks?
they said
now. He's-
okay.
Wait, hang on. Hang on.
Okay.
We are talking about quarterbacks that came out of the 6th round. We are obligated for Lauren to mention. So was Tom Brady.
So is Tom Brady.
Yep. So it's
Okay.
Tom Brady.
We got
But-
that. We got that out. The promotion.
But are we talking about Clayton Tune being Tom Brady? Is that what we're talking about?
You're welcome, Lauren. You're
let's
welcome.
not do that. Lauren would roll her eyes so hard.
No,
right
she
now.
wouldn't. She would say it's a
Uh,
6th round pick. It's the same thing. It could
So
happen.
no. So but it's interesting because Kyler's in his window, right? He's still got 7
Kyler may
days or
come back this
9
week.
days.
Kyler,
That's
Kyler
what
may
they
surprise.
say, but the coaches and
possible.
owners, they have been steadfast since day one that he was not going to be back for 3 weeks. And this week is the second week.
And coaches
Next
never
week would be the
lie.
third week.
They never.
Right.
lied.
No, coaches never lie. Never, ever. However,
It's game
I
scheming.
think that in this case, they have followed the script so far from what they said. So it's just interesting to take a look at, to just keep an eye on from fantasy perspective, and we can talk about that in a little while when we start
This
talking about some
would-
fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
So-
this would not be the week to bring back Kyler.
No,
We've got a
don't they
team
have
going
Baltimore?
into cold Cleveland's and Miles Garrett
Hmm.
would destroy.
Yeah,
him.
you don't wanna-
What are you? What are you?
Beyond the week
What are
to
you
bring
doing with
back Kyler.
Marquise? What are you doing with Marquise this weekend?
You got to play him, bro. He's
I
been a flexing. He's been great.
You
I
traded
traded him in the offseason, so I'm good.
So no, I have him in I think in the show league, if I'm not mistaken. No, I have him in an ESPN league. He's been great. He's been consistent 10 to 12 points.
He's your one?
No,
The show
he's my
league
flex.
is a 16
Now that's
league.
16
He's my
team
flex.
league. Anybody
No,
can be your
I
one
think
in
it's
that
my
league.
ESPN league, not the show league. It's not the show league. It's my ESPN league. He's a
16
flex.
deep.
He's a flex.
Anybody
for me.
who's
12
breathing is a start in a 16-team league. If you're
I actually have a
breathing,
really
you're
good.
starting.
I have a
I'm
really good
starting
team in the show
Wandale
league.
Robinson.
Yeah, not
Me and,
anymore. You
Clint,
ain't.
me and Clint just pulled a trade in the show
We
league
did.
last week.
We did, and now Drake London has a groin injury.
Collusion.
Yeah, collusion. Javonte Williams
And
for Drake London.
Javonte's on
Drake-
bye week.
And,
So
and
that really worked out for me. So I still have to start AJ Dillon.
Motherfucker, you hush your damn mouth. You got 25 points from this motherfucker last week. You better calm your
It
tits,
was
bro.
due.
Come on
It
now.
was due.
Anyway,
Oh my God, you make people make my skin crawl with the phrase "he was due."
He was due.
We can get into that another week, but that makes my skin crawl.
yeah, we can get into.
It's all about the
the.
numbers.
right.
Eventually, your number has to come up.
So, all right. So let me tell. So let's talk about the last one.
That's a Brian Hoyer.
which is
His number
which
came
is,
up, so he's still getting checks.
So, which is Jaron? You know what? Hold on. Let's finish off this conversation. So, did y'all see the Arizona head coach? Who's the coach for Arizona? What's his name?
Jonathan Gannon.
So Jonathan Gannon. He came out and said when he was asked why, he was like, Kyler's not starting on the beginning of his press conference. Kyler's not starting this week, and we're starting Tune in replace of Dobbs. Like, why? What did Josh Dobbs do? Now, Arizona's not good. Josh Dobbs hasn't been great. He's been okay. Right? He hasn't been great, right?
He was passable.
And so he
Literally
the coach said,
passable.
but the coach said, I reviewed the tape. And we made a decision. Not he's about to be traded. He threw the dude under the bus, even though he didn't need to. Like, he said extra words when he didn't need to say the extra words.
In Jonathan Gannon's defense, if you actually did look at the tape, this man had like 90 yards with like 9 minutes to go in the game.
Oh, don't get me wrong. He's not great.
He managed to end up with like 260, 270, some shit like that. I don't remember exactly.
Look, don't get me wrong. He ain't great.
So his numbers were skewed, bro.
But
so he was terrible. He was good and terrible now.
That's
for
not
fantasy
why.
For our purposes, it worked out.
But
in
that's
real
not
life,
why.
that's how you lose your job.
Right.
Playing
So
dudes
that's
like
not
that.
that's not why though, Ferg. Hey, what's up, man? That's not why though, Ferg. That's not why he got benched. That's not why Tune is starting. They were starting Tune because they were trading him to the Vikings. Right.
So-
and we know he's not starting this week. But what he did was the coach threw his ass under the bus in the press conference for no reason.
Okay,
Like,
so
no good
feelings.
reason.
I have feelings here. First of all, number one, a brief rant on Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon was the Eagles' defensive coordinator last year, and during Super Bowl week, he was interviewing with the Cardinals. And maybe if he had been paying attention to the Eagles, they would have stopped the Chiefs once in that whole game. Sidebar. So he is a terrible, terrible head coach. So yes, you are correct that from a professional standpoint, Joshua Dobbs in Arizona did not pass the eye test. He was not a good quarterback. He won one game. He beat Dallas. That was a team win. But he's 1-7. And when you're 1-7, yes, there's pieces all around you, but you are the quarterback. You are the leader of this team. Nothing was expected of him. So there's no real loss. I agree with you that Jonathan Gannon did not need to throw him under the bus.
Zero reason.
He did not.
No
Zero
reason. But I think Joshua Dobbs getting benched and then cut or traded is a big story, but it's not as big a story because he's going to Minnesota where he may or may not be the starter based on what happens this week when they play Atlanta.
Okay,
Now,
so let's talk about that.
So Atlanta is actually the bigger story because they finally benched Desmond Ritter in favor of Tyler Heineke. Taylor Heineke, excuse me, which earlier we talked about very briefly when Josh McDaniels was fired, people on the socials were yelling, free Devontae, and it made no sense. I drafted Taylor Heineke in a lot of leagues as a late round sleeper, feeling Desmond Ridder was not going to be it. And Taylor Heineke is a decent, he's better than Gardner Minshew, but
he's been great.
But he's not Sam Howell. Sam Howell is a good quarterback. But if you are an owner of Bijan Robinson or Drake London or Kyle Pitts, Arthur Smith is the problem. Smith is not calling the right plays. But now I feel like you have a more competent quarterback.
Definitely.
So from a fantasy perspective, I really think Taylor Heineke is the bigger story than Josh Dobbs.
No, he's definitely the bigger story, but he was our, okay. So the Taylor Heineke thing, he's a very, very serviceable quarterback that likes to throw the ball. And because he likes to throw the ball, Bijan's is gonna benefit. Drake London, whenever he gets off his groin injury, is gonna benefit. Mac Hollins will benefit. Kyle Pitts, we'll see. Because Desmond Ridder and Kyle Pitts actually had a really good chemistry, and so that was like he was confident in him and all that, and the coach seemed to be confident in Desmond Ridder. We all know Desmond Ridder is trash. We all know that he is trash, right? And he looks 6'3". I mean, now would the Giants take Desmond Ridder as starting quarterback right now? Yes. I'm sure
that's a downgrade. That's a downgrade.
Tom Brady couldn't play behind that line, so it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Desmond,
you're not.
Tommy DeVito can.
Tommy DeVito. Okay, so because
how do you have a backup quarterback that's not ready to play and has not learned the playbook, so you have to run the ball like it's high school? What the hell,
bro? 36 times.
Dable looks as incompetent as he looked competent last year. It's like
incompetent. Brian Dable's the answer.
Managing the clock, he's terrible, but he was so decent. We were the good bad team last year.
Yeah,
and we had
y'all in Minnesota
and stuff. Yeah, but golly, I mean that coaching, it's a joke.
Yeah, we had a 5-minute conversation or so about the 7 yards passing that y'all had on Sunday.
Add Dable's incompetence to the plus column of how good Josh Allen really is.
That's a good point, Ferg. That's definitely a good point. We could talk about that.
Brian Daboll and Josh Allen is going to wind up being a parallel analogy to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. The quarterback is the one who drove it. The play caller, the coach, has some say. But we now know it was Tom Brady, and we now know it was Josh Allen.
All right, so let's talk about Jaren Hall real quick.
It wasn't Tom first three. Those first three was not Tom.
No. He was too young.
So we'll give you the last four. We'll give you the last four. It's still four.
All right, so let's talk about Jaren Hall, who's going to be starting for the Vikings because they just traded for Josh Dobbs, and they have Nick Mullins, who apparently is their guy, that is coming back next week. Like, he'll be eligible to come back off the IR in week 10. Not saying he's going to play and start in week 10. That's why they got Josh Dobbs, because obviously they have no faith in Jaren Hall, right? It doesn't seem like it anyway. I mean, but they need a stopgap.
What happens if Jaren Hall's that dude?
Sure. So, so let me ask you a question. Like, all of you are fantasy guys. You've been playing fantasy for a very long time. Jordan Addison has been insane. Has been so good.
So good.
Do you play him this week? No. Do you play him this week? Okay. So
it depends on your options. It depends on what kind of league you're in.
So let's say
no, you play
Jordan Addison is your 1 or 2 receiver.
Play you guys.
If he's your 1 or 2 receiver, do you play Jordan Addison?
I play the 1 on any team. If I own that guy, the 1 on that
he's
team,
the 1.
He's probably
definitely the 1. Him and Hockenson are the 1.
I might flex him.
Right.
Temper your
he's gonna be somewhere, and one of my 2 wide receivers are normally 2 flex spots. If you're in a league any bigger than that, you definitely can't afford to sit them. So 10 team on a great 10 team, you maybe could, if you have another option, you might get lucky, but otherwise, don't be stupid.
Don't be cute.
Don't sit Jordan Addison because you think Demario Davis is going to blow up this week with Mac Jones.
No,
Like you
no,
can play them together, but
So-
don't sit him for him.
Yeah.
Don't do those.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I'm gonna
Kamish,
play. him.
so I made a very similar hot take earlier in the show. You hadn't joined us yet, so I'm gonna repeat it. The question was, when the Giants go this week to Las Vegas, obviously they only have one possible fantasy starter, and it's Saquon. And I said I wouldn't start Saquon unless I absolutely had to, because A, he's injury prone. He's coming off, and he touched the ball 40 times last week. They're not going to throw it. There's no quarterback, no offensive line, no receivers. Unless you don't have a choice, do you start Saquon as a Giants fan?
Yeah, we don't have a long-term investment in him, so why do we care about resting him?
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
Cold blooded right there. That's cold
Yeah.
blooded. That's straight to the. That's
I
straight
mean,
to the
I
point
get it.
right
yeah.
there.
I mean,
You know what
Well,
I mean?
okay.
On
that's
fantasy,
from
I
the
wouldn't
GM.
start.
That's what in the fantasy perspective, though.
from fantasy, I
Would you
wouldn't start him.
Saquon?
You
on
would
your
start
team?
him?
flex
You don't think he's gonna have
Run
a
it
lot
40
of
times?
carries, get a bunch of dump offs?
Get hurt.
He got
I mean,
3
what's up?
dump offs
He
last
got
week for 0 yards.
I'm just trying to think about
yeah,
even in a
You're
10
right. But he
team
ran
league,
a lot though. He had 128 yards.
in a
36
10 team league
carries.
though. Are there 20 running backs you would start before Saquon?
That's
Even
why
in
I
a
said
10
I would
team.
No
flex him.
chance. No chance.
I might flex him, but
20?
that's really it.
Yeah. So let's
No,
There's
so
not
let's talk
20
about
guys. There's not 20 guys you can start
There's
in
not
front
20
of
you
Saquon.
started from.
no,
him,
not
nobody.
20 you started for Saquon. So
And,
okay,
and
guys,
that's me giving you credit for Zach Moss and Taylor
Yeah,
on
10.
the same team.
There's at
I'll
least
give
10
you
or 12.
Kareem. I mean, Jerome Ford, whoever else you want me to count, but you
I
still
would
can't
start
get 20
Jerome
guys.
Ford. I would start Darrell Henderson. I would start Cam Akers. This
not
week,
over
this
Saquon.
week.
That,
This
You
Not
would
week.
over
start
Saquon.
Ford over Saquon.
that's taken.
No.
That's taken for granted. Your running backs are loaded.
I mean,
then. Like your other
Ford-
two
I mean,
guys must be
Ford
like
is
Mixon
Ford
and
Hunt.
Eckler.
No, Ford and
Mixon,
Hunt
Eckler,
are
and
both.
Barkley. You're gonna
Ford
sit
and Hunt
Barkley.
are starting at home against Arizona. Based on that matchup, I might.
No, I don't know. All right, so look, so let's talk about the
That's rough.
reason. Let's talk about the reason that Mr. Jared Hall is starting is because Kirk Cousins went down. He tore his Achilles, and he was having a really good season. The Vikings
Always.
had the number one passing offense in the NFL. That's why they could support a Jordan Addison, a Hawkinson, and a Jefferson, and have a trash ass running game. So Kirk Cousins goes down. It's terrible for fantasy. It's terrible for the Vikings and their
It's
chance
terrible
to
for
the
him,
playoffs.
too.
It's terrible
And
for
it's
him
terrible
getting
for
another
Cousins.
big deal.
He is
Getting
just
another contract.
he is such a good dude too. Like, did y'all watch that QB stuff on? I think it was Netflix, right? He's just a good. He just seems like a good cat, right?
He gets solid cat, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know what? Remarkably, I think he was one of the only or the major injury, and it was pretty limited in the injury category this week, right? Ian, I know we were talking about this before, right?
Yeah, I don't know that there was anything else. At least I'm
There's
not
nothing
thinking
really
of
bigger
anything
than that.
was-
Right.
No
That was the biggest
season-ending
one.
thing, and we just had people
Right.
who got knocked out.
Yeah,
Stafford
people
got
look
hurt.
Yeah.
dinged up. Well, I
Stafford's
mean,
done.
and then our annual guarantee of Darren Waller being
Yeah.
out for like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and then
Other
you
than
got
that,
the
I mean, those are the only two things.
He's droppable, right? He's droppable.
Yeah.
I'm about to drop
He's
him.
definitely
yeah,
droppable.
he's droppable.
Now
And
he
then-
is.
so-
Yeah.
Let
So
me do
now-
it right now.
And then you have like then you have the guys that are on the comeback, right? Which is Kyler Murray, who we've already discussed today. He's probably not coming back this week, but May. And Justin Fields is going to be coming back at some point. Ian and I were having a conversation because I have a 2 QB league and I'm starting Curtis Godwin in my super flex position because I have Kyler Murray on injured reserve and Justin Fields is hurt. So, and Tyler Heineke is on the free agent list. And
Gotta get
so,
him.
should I go pick up Tyler Heineke? Oh, no, Ferg and I were talking about this. Should I pick up Tyler Heineke, but who do I drop, right? I don't have any droppable players. I have Olave, McCaffrey, Javonte Williams on my bench because they're off.
Well, you can leave
Right.
Kyler in your IR slot until you want
Still have to
play.
drop somebody to pick up Heineke. So I had to drop
He has,
Fields.
he needs a tight end too.
I need to tight end too because Darren Waller.
I told him
is
I
an
would go
asshole.
with one. I would go with one QB
This
and
is
a
I'm
wide
starting
receiver
Godwin.
and just suck it up for the week.
Well, Godwin got me 17 points last week, so it's whatever. You know what I'm
Godwin
saying?
would be
Okay.
my super flex, and then
Wait a
I
minute,
would
so
play a
you-
QB.
So, I mean, I feel like you could drop Javonte on Sunday.
You think I can get him back?
You could probably get
Someone's
him
going
back.
to get him.
Hold
Or
on,
I
wait a minute.
could-
Hold on, Murrow. Listen.
Y'all got Fab. You got
Hold
Fab
on,
in this
listen,
league?
listen.
Yeah.
You would drop him. You would drop Javante just to pick up Heineke
for a
rather than
week.
play Godwin in that flex spot.
For a week.
Like you
Oh,
really,
I thought you
like
didn't
I
have
wouldn't,
anybody.
I
Oh, I
wouldn't
thought you
even
didn't have
think
anybody.
No, I have
Heineke.
Godwin that can play.
Oh, just play.
I-
Yeah, play.
Heineke
Godwin
got to
there.
play a hell of
Yeah.
a game to have a better than an average game that Godwin has.
Yeah.
Even
No,
with
that.
I mean you're not wrong.
I thought
You're
you
not
were
wrong.
stuck because I got a
No,
league
no, no.
where
I
I
was
got
stuck.
too many Lions.
It's a super
and so-
flex spot.
No,
I get that.
four
Super flex
Lions,
spot.
and I can't get rid of any of them.
I get that. No, you can't. So it's
Jeff,
Okay,
Gibson, Amon,
So can I
Ross,
ask my question then?
Jared Goff.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I have a similar issue, but mine is completely on a different spectrum here. So I have a league in which I'm 8-0. I have a solid squad. Like I'm solid on all levels.
Apparently so.
But I lost Kirk Cousins.
Mhm.
It was a 2 QB
Hurts.
in which I had Justin Fields and Kirk Cousins.
Ouch.
Mhm.
Once I was good with Kirk and doing like I told you, putting Godwin in the super flex or Keenan
Ouch.
Allen, something like that. Now I have no QBs, but I am 8-0. Should I just
Should
sit
redraft?
pat? This is a dynasty, so I should
You
just
just gotta
sit
take the
pat
L. Yeah,
and just take the L's until
Take the
Justin
L.
Fields comes back,
Yeah.
or actually risk dealing like a Jordan Addison
No.
or Justin Jefferson for a QB, for a
No.
marginal type Gardner Minshew Heineke QB.
No.
Is there,
if you-
is there a monetary prize for finishing in first place?
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Mm.
This is not free.
All right. So then, if you're gonna trade Jefferson or Addison, and it's a dynasty league, you trade Addison and you get the best QB possible. Like you get a
Like the best
Who
deal
would-
that I
who
could
would-
possibly
who would
get
be
for
good-
Addison
who would be
that
good for
somebody
Addison?
actually offered was Geno.
Yeah,
No way.
it's only
was the
worth
best
doing
deal I
stuff
got.
Like that, if you,
No
if,
way.
if
Not
there-
a fan.
if there's
Not
cash,
in dynasty.
if
Yeah,
cash
but this is
coming
cash
out
now.
for
This ain't
regular-
no free
it's-
shit.
You get cash.
Like
for
my
for the
team is
regular
basically
season, right?
win now. When you start in
Yeah,
Michael
I would go
Thomas,
after.
Keenan Allen,
Yeah.
Travis
Yeah.
Kelsey, you
Okay,
are in
so-
win now.
So, Ferg, can you trade Jefferson and get like a Allen?
A dude offered me.
I wouldn't trade
The
Jefferson.
dude offered me
He doesn't come back.
Geno and DK for Justin Jefferson.
Get out of here.
No.
But I have so
No.
many wide receivers. I still
Yeah.
didn't want to do it, even with
No.
no
Justin
QB.
Jefferson decides not to come back because no quarterback. and it's a
Right?
mess.
Because Josh Dobbs is their quarterback, right?
So maybe you should trade
And
him
he,
before
and he didn't
you
get
lose him.
and he didn't get it. But if it's a dynasty, he's gonna
It's
come
a
back.
dynasty,
Oh,
though.
dynasty. Never mind, dynasty.
Yeah.
Jeff,
so no.
so I would aim for something like this. I would definitely, between Addison and Jefferson, I would definitely hang on to Jefferson because it's a dynasty league and
Yeah.
Jefferson is just an alien. So
Unless
he's
you can
gonna
get
be
Josh
fine.
Allen or Lamar or something like that.
No, not that.
I,
It ain't
I
gonna be
still
that.
wouldn't. No,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't. I would try to move Addison and see if you could get something in
Like
the
a Dak?
level of like a exactly
Like a Dak Prescott? Yeah, I could see that.
I think
Yeah.
I think a Dak if Matthew Stafford's hand really isn't a
Mhm.
problem, a Matthew Stafford. I think Dak might be my top target.
Yeah,
if
I
he-
would say that's a
Yeah.
favorable trade
Dak
in
is it.
dynasty.
Dak
I mean,
for
even though
Addison,
that's
huh?
gonna hurt you, that's gonna hurt you in like 3 years when Jordan Addison is JJ. You know what I'm saying? So like
don't
that's
know
gonna
that.
hurt you in a few
I
years,
mean, we'll see,
but it's okay because
that Addison
if you can
Jefferson
win now-
combination was set. I mean, it was just set.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
did. It's like Jefferson,
Yeah.
Kelsey, and basically you can have anybody at quarterback.
It doesn't
That's what I
matter
did,
after
and now
that,
my
it
quarterbacks
really-
got hurt.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so let's talk about some fantasy stuff real quick. So
Yeah.
I wrote some stuff down. Like AJ Brown needs to be talked about. Is it 7 or 8 straight games that he has 125 plus and a touch?
6.
Right.
Six.
No, it's 7,
NFL record.
7 or 8. I thought no 7. I think
Oh,
he
we talking
tied
about
the record
who,
at
isn't
7.
Six. It's six. It's
Six.
six.
It's
Yeah?
6.
Okay. So this dude is bonkers, right?
Mhm.
He okay, we were talking about this before he came on, and I gotta read this, Merrill. I don't know if you've seen this. So AJ Brown's incredible touchdown catch was the last straw for a Commanders fan who called NASA to complain about AJ Brown, calling him a Decepticon. Like,
Thing called
okay.
NASA.
He's doing
Dude
some.
calls NASA.
He's doing some Megatron stuff out here.
So he called him a Decepticon, and it's crazy because I mean, Black Mask. You know, you can dig the whole vibe, right? Like, I mean, he seems like he's mean on the football field.
Yeah, but
Right.
sometimes he
So
falls.
who's the best
kinda
wide receiver in
awkwardly,
football
Right.
then?
and then he's hurt.
And gets hurt, right?
So
So
is
he's
AJ Brown the
great.
best receiver in football?
AJ Brown.
It's
So-
Tyreek
Justin,
Hill. It's not even.
I
It's not
just
even
wanted to hear
AJ
you say it.
So
I know. I
AJ
just wanted to hear you
Brown.
say it.
What'd you
I
say?
I just
Meryl?
wanted to hear you say it
Tyreek
out
Hill.
loud.
It's
That's
not
all.
even close.
Oh,
It's like
Tyreek
Hill.
Hill.
It's like Hill and draw a line.
Everybody else. Yeah.
So Tyreek Hill is definitely the best. He is unguardable. But
Yeah.
here's some numbers for you. Over the past 6 weeks, when AJ Brown has been going on his run, he has 841 receiving yards over the past 6 weeks, and
Yeah.
he is the wide receiver 1 in
sure.
receptions, yards, and touchdowns.
Easy
Am I
peasy.
saying he's better than Tyreek Hill? No, I am
No.
absolutely not saying
Because
that.
he's not.
Am I saying if Tyreek Hill is in the MVP conversation? I'm not saying he is.
Nah,
If
Oh, he
If-
is.
if
he
he
should be.
is
He is.
in
nah.
He is.
if Tyreek Hill is in the MVP conversation because
Oh,
of
it
what
is
he's
now.
doing this year,
Because now-
then AJ Brown is in that same conversation because over the past 6 weeks, which is a third of the season, AJ Brown has put up better numbers than even Tyreek Hill
So the
over
first
that
game don't
6-week
count.
stretch.
Now all of a sudden the first game don't
That's
count.
not what I'm saying. That's not Jeff.
Now the first one
You
don't
have
count.
you have
The
selective
first don't
hearing.
count.
Jeff, Josh, you have
Golly.
selective hearing.
Look,
I
let's
said
just.
over the past 6
They're
weeks.
both great, and they both
Yep.
should be in the MVP conversation because of how they've affected their team more than anything else. But their
the
stats are
game.
stupid.
Well, there's
their
not
stats
a
are
good
stupid.
quarterback this year. It's about to, it's just it's kind of like a weird year
If
because
it's
like
a
Yeah.
there was a
quarterback,
one,
Jalen
How
Jalen
one
Tyreek
good
or
quarterback,
AJ Brown could win it in
Jalen
a
hasn't
year
been
like
great.
this.
Yeah,
Unless
the Bills
somebody
haven't
goes
been
on like
great.
a crazy run and Josh Allen just
Yeah.
like
keep in mind, we're
doesn't lose
only
another
halfway.
game or
We're
Patrick
only
goes
halfway
back to
through
being
the season.
Patrick.
We
But
have
Josh-
8 more games.
Josh Allen has been good. The Bills just haven't been great.
If
Josh
they,
Allen
win,
has
if
been
they
really
win
weird.
6 or 7 in a row, Josh Allen will win the MVP.
No,
Whoever
that's
I mean,
quarterback finishes strong
you know
will
what?
be the MVP.
I take that back. Burrow, if Burrow keeps on the run that he's on right now,
After
Then-
that start, yeah.
then they want Burrow. Burrow is like a media darling. Like that would
Yeah,
be
no,
that would
for
be a
sure.
good look
Absolutely.
for the league
For
for
sure.
Burrow to win an MVP.
All right, so let's talk about the royalty of all royalty when it comes to football, and the other person, fantasy football, and the other person I want
Don
to talk
Shula?
about here is it's CMC, y'all.
Oh,
This
okay.
dude scored in 17 straight football games, right? Like it's pretty bananas.
He's got
Right.
he's got a high user rate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it's like
You-
Russell
you're right,
Westbrook
you ain't wrong.
in triple doubles. It's
You
you
ain't
shoot
wrong.
all the time and you always
All
have
the
ball.
time.
But look, this guy
It's just been so
averages
good.
21 fantasy points per game over his career in a PPR league.
Because he gets 90% of
Right.
the
But
touches. So
this is what I'm saying though. Like
it's volume.
Yeah.
It's
And
not.
then
I think he's good, but people go a little overboard. He just.
Well, we're
gets a lot
speaking
of play.
strictly
no,
fantasy.
you're not
Strictly
wrong.
fantasy.
We're talking strictly
Strictly
fantasy.
fantasy.
Oh, it's great. It's impressive. But
Oh,
it's like
and then
Strictly
you
fantasy.
and then you have the defense getting better as long as Young can stay healthy, and
Chase Young comes.
it's just gonna be a lot more opportunity for Christian McCaffrey.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
because this dude
The
just
problem in San
bangs out
Francisco.
points.
No, the problem in San Francisco is not CMC. The problem in San Francisco is Brock Purdy.
It's
Is
Purdy. It's
Absolutely.
trash.
Brock Purdy, listen, 10-0 to start a career, 9 touchdowns to 0 interceptions the first 6 weeks. Listen, the guy was playing phenomenally. The NFL coaches in the National Football League are coaches for a reason, and they will figure you out.
Well, it's
Nobody,
simple.
with the exception of a skill like Tyreek Hill, you cannot teach or defend speed. So that's different.
No.
Brock Purdy is a serviceable quarterback. He is a Geno Smith. Is he good? Yes. Can he manage a team? Yes. Can he manage a team like a Brad Johnson managed the Bucs?
He
to a
actually
Super Bowl title?
can't.
Oh,
I think
no, he
he
What,
can.
what,
I think
what if
he
I
can.
actually told you that he couldn't and that his passer rating was under 80 in all games that Debo Samuel
Fine.
doesn't
So
play in?
long as he has Brandon
And
Ayuk,
Debo's
so long
great
as he has
though.
George Kittle,
Okay,
CMC,
and
he
again,
can.
CMC and a
But-
great Debo and a
but-
Ayuk who would be a one
and
on
a
a lot of other
defense.
teams and a
and a
Kittle
defense.
and
So what's the-
probably the best defense in football with the best
But-
play caller in football.
But timeout.
Basically, any
But
average dude can play
That's the
quarterback.
point.
But
They
when
were
he
going to play
doesn't have
Sam
them,
Well, hang
Darnold.
on, hang on.
They
hang
were
on.
they were
hang on.
hyping up the fact that they would play Sam Darnold.
I know. So the fact that the point that I'm trying to make is that if you have the number one running back in the league, if you have the number one defense in the league, if you have a top 7 wide receiver in Ayuk and Debo who's hurt and a top 5 tight end, anybody can lead that. And Brock Purdy was the beneficiary of all of that. When they are trailing or it's a close game or they play a good defense and you need to rely on your quarterback, Brock
Trash.
Purdy is no longer the answer.
Is George Kittle a top 5 tight end anymore?
Statistically, he is this
Yeah.
year.
Is he? Is
He
he?
is this year.
Statistically,
Really?
he is. Yeah. He has 20 plus 3 of the last four weeks.
Wow.
So statistically, now Debo comes back, so Kittle takes a knock back.
I can't wait for
But-
Debo to come back.
Kittle
I-
is Purdy's favorite target.
I
Truth be
need
So,
Debo to come back.
The San Francisco 49ers will not win a championship with Brock Purdy if they need Brock Purdy.
Well, we can go back to a conversation we had a couple weeks ago. San Francisco won't win a championship without Trent Williams, and I think that's just point blank. Period.
Trent Williams is a big loss.
It's point blank. Period. They will not win a football championship without Trent Williams. So, all right. So, anything else fantasy wise you guys want to talk about before we get to Thursday night?
Welcome
got
back,
for us,
Austin Eckler. I missed you.
Yo, yeah, he had a big game. He had a really big game. Oh, you know what? Something I did want to talk about. And I was talking to a friend of mine that played in the NFL about this, talking about the Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss situation, and how Zach Moss has been so good, and they paid Jonathan Taylor so much money. Is the split going to continue to be 50-50? Because what it's been is it was like when Jonathan Taylor first game came back, it was like 70-30, right? And the next game was like 60-40. And last week it was 51-49 Moss.
So long as Zach Moss is producing like he's producing 20 points on average all season long.
Yeah.
So long as he's producing, yes, it will continue to be a 50-50. And you're scared you are going to start Jonathan Taylor in your fantasy lineups, much like you're going to start Saquon because you have to. Yeah. But you're still probably scared to start Zach Moss unless you're having another running back by Mageddon week and you need somebody to start. And that's unfortunate because Zach Moss is a good player.
You know what? Then we should go a couple minutes over. Ian, you brought up a good point. And why don't you pull this up so we can talk about this? This is the second buy Mageddon.
Well, there's no buys. I don't think there's any buys this week, aren't there?
There's no.
Yes, they are.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
Detroit, San Fran,
Detroit, San Fran, Jacksonville.
Last week had no buys.
Yeah, these buys are tough.
We need to do me a favor, call out the buys this week so we can talk about this.
Can I call out the buys or can I call out just the players? Here's the players. Here's the players that we are, and I do want to talk about one topic.
Well, then start with Detroit. Detroit.
So we are losing Jared Goff. We're losing Amon-Ra St. Brown. We are losing Jahmyr Gibbs. We're potentially losing David Montgomery. We're losing Sam Laporta. And we're actually losing Detroit's defense, which has not been a bad defense this season.
So Merrill's whole starting roster for one of his fantasy teams.
And Jeff's Lawrence Family League, Jeff has like 6 Lions starting.
Hey,
other people that are on bye week. We have Brock Purdy, who, if you're in a super flex, you need him. You have Debo, you have
CMC,
you have Kittle, you have CMC, and you have that defense. This week you are losing Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk,
Evan Ingram.
You're losing Calvin Ridley. You're losing Evan Ingram.
Let's not talk about Calvin Ridley. He's going to be Allen Robinson this year.
And then, listen, again, here's some names that you're probably only starting if you have to, but if you drafted them, you're playing them. You're losing in a super flex. You're losing Russell Wilson. You're losing Jerry Jeudy. You're losing Cortland Sutton, and you're losing Javonte Williams coming off that ACL and is really starting to chug along here. There's
Well,
some
you know what?
needs.
You know
There's
what,
some
Ian? Let's
needs.
be honest. You're actually losing if you're starting Russell Wilson and Jerry Judy, and so you're not really probably having a
Not
good
Well,
season.
not
to
last
begin
week.
with.
Not last week. You starting
last
Russell in a super flex. You have to.
In a
Oh, you
super
have
flex,
to.
You have to.
You have to.
Even
So
if
I
he's
want-
not 7 for
Russell's
12
been
for
good
92
though.
yards and
We
a
give
touchdown.
Russell a
So,
lot of shit,
I
but
wanna-
he's good though.
I
This
want to
year.
touch on
Much
something.
better
It's
this
not
year
that
than last
bad.
year.
Yeah. Last year was horrible. I don't think he's there
Horrible.
next year, but it is what it is. I want to touch real briefly on something that it's not the anniversary time wise, but we are revisiting this Sunday night. The Bills going back to Cincinnati. And there's a lot in the media. There will be a lot talked about. DeMar Hamlin.
DeMar
It's the
Hamlin,
first
yep.
time the Bills are back in Cincinnati. Those two teams are going to I don't think they play scared, but it's going to be in the back of their minds. It's going to be a very emotional game. The media is going to hype it up, which I think that they should. DeMar Hamlin is not going to play. He's a healthy scratch as he's been for all but one game. But
They're not
it's,
gonna let him play. They're not gonna let him play.
They're
it's
not
wor-
letting him play.
he played in one game.
One
Um,
game.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he played in like week
I
3.
wouldn't have let
They
him
got
play.
hell of
I
insurance.
would have let him either.
Yeah,
Got
that's
hella-
what
He
he
got
would.
hella
They
insurance.
got hella
It's a-
insurance. I'm not letting that dude on no field.
it's
It looked good,
it's a
and we
good
trying to
story.
sell jerseys, but I'm not letting him actually play in
It's
a
a
real
good
game.
story. It's
In a
good
real
story.
game?
It's a good
No.
story.
No,
He got
no,
more.
no,
He
no,
got
no,
bigger
no.
balls than I got. I can't do
Oh
it.
yeah, no,
He's
pass
a
on
big
I
that.
don't
one.
want that on
And
my
then-
conscience. This motherfucker die on
Nah,
the
bro.
field.
You
You know?
die on the
Like,
field.
Yeah.
You hit this motherfucker and he die.
No,
then-
I'm good.
Oh, my
I'm good.
The
God.
thing is, so aside
Y'all
from
wrong
Bills,
as hell.
aside
Ian is
from
Drago.
Bills, I know. Aside from
That's some cold shit.
Bills and Bengals, there's two other really huge games this week. You have the Tyreek Bowl 1.
Yes,
with
sir.
the
9:30
Ravens and the
Sunday.
Chiefs going
9:30
into
so
Germany.
early. Damn.
9:30.
Making
You'll
Ferg
be
get up
Very
early
early
on a
game.
Sunday
You'll
and start
be up.
drinking tequila.
Statistically,
We
drink
may just not
tequila
go to bed.
statistically, on a
It's birthday
fantasy
weekend.
level, you start everybody.
Facts.
And
Oh,
then
yeah, you
the
start
other
everybody.
the other really big game this week, which I think, I mean, it's not showing as big, but it really should be a big game, is Dallas coming to Philly.
Oh, yeah.
For the first time. And
Sunday night game.
That's a watchable.
no, it's a 4:25 game.
That's a
Sunday night game
4:25.
is Bills.
Yeah.
Sunday night is Bills and Bengals.
Yep, you're right.
But,
You're right.
I mean, I think Dallas is fraudulent. Living in Philly, I always think
Ooh.
Dallas
Monday
is
night game?
fraudulent. The
Dallas
Monday night is
fraudulent?
Chargers at Jets.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess
All
they
right.
thought they was getting
It looks
Herbert
out.
and Rogers though.
All
I guess
right,
that
so
was
then
on Herbert
That's
Rogers.
how I
game.
gotta watch it for my fantasy team game.
Right.
Eckler,
No, I
yeah,
mean,
Eckler.
so then that's a
You still
perfect
starting Garrett
segue.
Wilson? God damn.
You kind of have to. So that's a perfect segue, as you have done all evening, Ian, into the Thursday night football game, which is Titans Steelers, and
I
I'm
will not
pretty
be
sure it's
watching.
in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken.
He's
It's
in
in
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I have
So
homework.
the Steelers have a losing record for the they haven't had a losing record since Tomlin's
Yeah,
been there. We
they're-
talked about this last
They're
week.
4-3.
And they're 4-3 right now. And Mitchell Trubisky was the starter until Kenny Pickett apparently can
Not
play
playing.
with busted ribs
Yeah, he's
and
playing.
whatever else he has. And but I don't think Deontay is playing, right? I think he's hurt, or he showed up on the injury report, right? Deontay
I
Johnson.
haven't seen that. I'm sorry.
I didn't.
Haven't
I
seen
didn't
that
see
one.
yet.
And so, but they're not very good. And
Nope.
TJ Watt is
Minka
keeping that.
Minka's
Minka
gone.
Fitzpatrick's hurt. Yeah, Minka's gone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's the
gotta
sad thing. So it's a 2.5 favorite for the Steelers, and again, they're at home. And it's a 36.5 point over under, which is bad. Who wants to watch Thursday night games anymore? The last week Thursday night game was really good. This week, probably won't be so much. So, let's
I'll
talk
go with
fantasy in this for the away team, the Titans. We haven't talked about it yet, but this is a perfect time to talk about it. Will Levis,
Yep.
right? So, what do you do with Will Levis? Dude came out through for
Banana
289 and 4 with no picks.
If
Was
you-
throwing
D-Hop.
dimes to people.
He's one of
D-Hop had
those.
3.
If you have a super flex and you don't have
Yeah.
anybody else, you start him. If you
Grab
do,
Will Levis. Yeah,
I don't-
absolutely.
Otherwise, I want to see it again.
Pittsburgh.
and
is a
you know,
good team.
so-
Yeah, I got to
again.
see that again. I got to
So
see
who
that again.
benefits? So
Do it
do you
again.
start D Hop? Who knows? I mean, do you have to flex him? Probably.
You probably
are
because of
you-
all these buys. You probably
Right.
have to play him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then Derrick Henry, you're definitely starting Derrick Henry. He was actually
got
one
the
of the
catches
main
for 28
benefactors. he was one of the main benefactors last week, Derrick Henry, of Will Levis being good at throwing the football. Because Ryan
Tannehill is
Tannehill is
terrible.
not, and Malik Willis is
not.
definitely not. And so he
Malik
was
Willis
definitely the
trash.
benefactor. So I think those are really the only three that you can consider starting. If D-Hop plays, those are the only three that you can really consider starting. Now, on the other side of the football, you got the Steelers. And do you want to start anybody? Like, I kind of think you have to start Najee because of workload. Like, straight workload. Dude gets 20 touches a game, so you kind of have
Warren.
to start him.
Jalen Warren.
Warren.
I'd
No, yeah,
start
you got to
Jalen
flex.
Warren.
You got to start or flex Jalen
I'd
Warren.
rather start Warren than Najee.
I would
Right.
too.
Okay. So do
And
you
Pickens
start
could
any?
get a random 70-yard touchdown. So I would.
Well, do you
Pickens-
start? So do you start Deontay if he plays? Do you start
If
any
you
other
own
receiver?
Pickens, he's
'Cause
probably
Pickens
He's
is
probably one of your flex guys.
No, Pickens is. I think it was Pickens, not
Pickens
Deontay
scored
that was
last
hurt.
week once
No, but I think he's
Trubisky
hurt.
got in.
I think he's hurt.
Oh,
I think
Pickens
he's
is hurt.
I think
I
he's
ain't
hurt.
seen that.
I think he showed up on the injury report today.
haven't seen it.
And
I'll look.
so it may be something to
Look at
keep an
that.
eye on. And their tight end situation is non-existent. So do you really start anybody besides Najee and Jalen Warren? Like, do you start Deontay Johnson? Like,
If he starts, I mean, like he runs
If
really
he
good
start,
routes. to
if
go
Pickett
to
is
him.
starting,
Yeah.
I'm playing him.
Yeah, I'm
So-
playing Pickens and which one?
Yeah.
the Titans over
Pickens
the
is
last.
not.
Pickens
He's
is
not
number
hurt.
He's not.
four.
He's fine.
Okay,
No.
so
Neither is Deontay. They're both
out of the last like 5 years, I think is what they said. The Titans have been one of the best defenses against the rush in football. Actually, I think the best statistically. And so Najee's probably not going to have a good game. But you
Does he
kind of have
ever?
to start him because.
Does he?
No, but see, here's the thing: he's going to have 12 carries for 23 yards, 8 catches for 17 yards, and he's going to get you 14 points.
and a touchdown.
You know what
I
I mean?
don't know. If he doesn't get the
So-
touchdown, he's borderline basic.
Every fan.
If he
every
doesn't get a
fantasy
touchdown, he's
starter-
basic. He's
Every
basic.
fantasy starter on the Steelers, including their quarterback, is 100% touchdown dependent.
Yeah, for sure.
Every Steeler
Yeah, because they're garbage.
and every Titan.
Garbage and having 4-3
Totally
record.
touchdown
Yeah.
So,
dependent.
let,
If
so let
Najee-
me name these running backs and see if you guys would start any of these running backs over
Over
Harris.
Okay.
Jerome
over
Ford.
Najee? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
In a
Jerome Ford.
PPR
Over
league?
Najee.
PPR
No, I mean
league?
this week, like this week.
PPR?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
PPR and
Yes.
standard.
Yes.
Jerome Ford.
Yes.
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 Madison.
Versus Arizona, yes.
No.
No.
I was Madison was the running back I was gonna say.
Cam Akers,
No.
Cam Akers, maybe. Madison
This week
No.
against Arizona.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't
what
think
about
so.
Kareem Hunt?
Madison's versus Atlanta.
Who
Oh,
So
Atlanta.
would you play Kareem Hunt over Najee?
who is Cleveland playing?
That's a good
They're
question. I don't know.
home versus Arizona.
Oh, then yes. Kareem
Okay,
Hunt.
Yes.
What about
Yeah.
I would play
Dante
Ford over Hunt.
Dante Foreman?
Yes.
You play Foreman over
That
Harris?
backfield, is,
No.
that backfield,
Not over Najee.
See, I would start. I would be 6-1. What about Demarcado?
No.
No.
Najee.
No.
That's
Versus
just all about
Cleveland.
workload, bro. As I said, man, you get 8 catches and 20 yards, you got 10 points. Like, can you
I
go
think
out
it's
and
also
we
about
say,
need to
matchup.
stop denying Foreman.
What
Yeah,
about
but
It's
can't-
also about the
Foreman is legit.
matchup.
When
So
Foreman is a
here's-
starter, he is.
we
a
talked
must-
about
how about
this.
your boy Pierce from Houston?
we
Would you play
we
him
talked
over
about
him?
this before
He's
you
hurt.
came on.
No, he's
well,
trash.
he's been
He's
coming
trash.
up on the injury
And
report every
Singletary is
Wednesday.
better than him. Singletary.
Now, but I will
Montana.
say he did have a touchdown call back that was like an 8-yard run last week for some holding bullshit. So
He
I mean,
also
it's not
couldn't
like
get it
he
in,
hasn't
but
been
he
great.
also couldn't get it in from the goal line
Correct.
twice, and the
No.
fullback did.
You're not wrong.
So,
You're not wrong. Well, the Texas offensive line
Trash.
is not historically
They weren't
good.
expecting that either, too. I think.
So
I mean,
no,
he's
for
trash.
sure. But okay,
would you
so
would you start over Najee? Would you start Chuba Hubbard?
Yes.
yes, this week.
No.
Would
Yes.
you
This
start?
week, bro.
Would you start James Cook?
No.
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 Oh, did you hear? By the way, hold on. Can we talk about that for a second? Leonard Fournette signed with the Bills.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck Leonard Fournette.
Like,
Yeah.
like, how crazy is that?
He hates
No.
I
Fournette.
mean, he may
Who
end up being their
cares?
dude. I mean,
Fournette
Right,
is going to
well,
be the
he's
dude that they
catching the ball.
thought Damian Harris was going to be, and Fournette's a better pass catcher.
At least, all right. I'm saying that's what I'm saying. At least catching the
Oh,
ball.
would you start over Najee? You've got a trifecta with Chicago. You've got Donta, you've got
Foreman,
Rashawn
yes.
Johnson, and
No.
Khalil Herbert.
not Johnson or
No.
what
the
about
other guy. No.
what about
Not
this?
Johnson or
Here's,
Herbert.
here's two other ones. Would you start over Najee, either or Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon?
Not AJ
Dillon,
Dillon.
yes.
Not AJ
Yes,
Dillon.
AJ Dillon, yes.
Aaron
AJ
Jones,
Dillon
for
this
sure.
year, yes.
AJ Dillon.
Aaron Jones is
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah, both of them.
And they
And
don't want Jordan
would
Love
you
throwing the ball
start
30 times.
over Najee Harris? Would you start any of the Rams? Royce Freeman,
Yes.
Darrell
Yes.
Henderson.
Daryl
Darryl
Henderson, yes.
Daryl Henderson, yes. Royce Freeman.
There
Got
are
a healthy,
plenty of
a healthy
options.
Kyron Williams, yes.
There are
Dude.
plenty of options above Najee Harris this week.
Okay. All right. So y'all, we are 10
These
minutes
Alabama
over.
backs, it just ain't them
I'm there.
dudes.
Look, so let's
They just
let
ain't
well,
them
Derrick
dudes.
Henry.
Except
So
for
let's
One.
and Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs.
All right. So
He had one
let's
good year.
Give me
so
your
we're
He had
bids.
one year.
y'all. He was the number one fantasy running back last
He
year.
had
Number
one
running back
year.
last
we had one
Okay,
year.
he had
man.
one
Okay,
year.
let's see what he does this year. He's
All
still
right.
getting 25 touches a game.
All
right, so
Peyton
it's-
Hillis had 1 year.
Trent,
you're right.
Trent
It's
Richardson.
true.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So did Cadillac Williams, but I don't want to talk about that.
Cadillac.
All right,
Ronnie
Cadillac.
Brown. You remember Ronnie Brown?
Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown, Cadillac
Hey,
Williams, Lamar
War
Miller, they
Eagle.
all had
That's
one
War
good year.
Eagle right there.
Yeah, whatever.
Brown.
All right, so it's 10 minutes past our bedtime. So do
He
y'all
is.
have
Who's paying for this?
so Kamish, you got any final thoughts on the NFL? Anything you want to say? Fantasy? Anything else at all?
Giants suck. It's been 10 years
Yeah.
of futility. I don't know what it's like to, for those of y'all that have these teams that just always lose. I never
Cubs
thought
fan.
I never thought we would be that type. We are basically the 90s Bengals.
Yeah.
So you're the Cowboys.
Well, at least the Cowboys
Y'all won
win.
championships since the Cowboys. though.
What no, I'm saying the Cowboys actually win games in the regular season. Like
True.
we have been inept for a decade almost.
Yeah.
It's I'm not used to it. My whole life, the team has been Super Bowl contender, respectable team, winning 10. I mean, it just
Well, dude, at least
you're
I mean,
terrible.
you're
You're the
at
Tony
least
Sperano
In the
Dolphins.
playoffs.
you're also Maryland. You're a Mets fan, so you're used to that
30
level
some years,
of
40
shit, right?
almost
So
now.
I mean,
But
you
no,
just got to
'cause
channel
the
your
Mets
Mets
flash.
energy.
We flash every 8 years.
That's
we
true.
flash every 8 years.
Well,
to give us
and
hope.
you go to the
We
World
have
Series with Pete
Yeah,
Alonso
we flash
and
every 8
all that
years.
boys.
so.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, we got talent, and we went to the World Series in 2000. I mean,
No,
we got,
you absolutely did.
we got
It's
destroyed,
relevant. We've been
Yeah, all
relevant.
right.
That was
So,
15 years ago.
No, I mean,
but
yeah.
20 some years ago.
No,
23
no,
years
no.
ago.
Y'all went to
20
the
years
World
ago.
Series.
No, we went to the World Series since
Royals.
then.
That
Oh,
was
yeah,
the Royals.
We lost the Royals.
2015.
That shit
Yeah.
was embarrassing. We had a good team. That was a good
Well,
team.
y'all swept us and then lost.
Yeah.
Got your
I
ass
forgot
whooped in the
about
World
that.
Series. Yeah.
And we were
all right.
good last year. We just
Because
yeah,
we lost to the
yeah.
fucking Royals. That's why you
But I'm
fucking
just saying that
forgot.
the headline is the Giants are, like I said, it's been
Who we
a
thought they
decade
were.
of just trash. That
Yeah.
It's that Miami. If you remember the Miami picture with Trey Songz, and that's when I first was done with Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
on the boat. On the
on the
boat.
boat.
Oh
10
yeah,
years ago.
have you seen?
it
I
really?
saw that the other day. What their
Yeah.
record was like
All wearing
since
Timbs
that
and
boat
no
picture.
shirts
It
on
was
the
like
deck.
your record is like 10 and 60
It's
something,
terrible.
or it's some
That was
crazy
horrible. That was on,
ridiculous
like,
number.
on their bye week or something like
Yeah,
that.
That was the
Yeah, they
last
went to
time that
Miami.
the Giants
They
had
went to
a
Miami.
good team, and then Eli left, and it's been downhill for a decade.
All right, Ian, you got anything to add to the final thoughts here?
You know what? I'm going to say one of the things that we always say at the end of the show is get your Thursday night players out of their flex spots
Or injured
This
players?
or
Yeah.
injured players. You know what? This week with the Titans and the Steelers and by Mageddon, who the fuck cares? Just put anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy, man.
You're not wrong, and I misspoke. Put your injured players in your flex. Take your Thursday night players and put them in your starting roster and not in your flex if you're going to play them. Ferg, you got anything to add, brother?
Fuck your team.
Yep,
Always.
for sure, for
And
sure.
I believe by Monday we'll probably be on top of the power rankings for the NFL. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. like
Yeah.
that. I believe by
Yeah.
Monday.
I think the Cowboys
No.
are gonna beat the Eagles.
Yes. How about that? How
That
about
was,
that?
that was a
How about I go with
decisive
that take?
answer.
I go with that take.
Decisive answer.
Because I subscribe to the Stephen A theory that I like to build Cowboy fans really, really high because their collapse is so much more epic
Jeff,
than every other
it is.
franchise.
Jeff, if the Cowboys beat the Eagles this week,
Oh boy.
I will come on next week wearing a Miami Dolphins hat.
Oh my goodness, let's do that.
Wow.
Let's do
I
that.
will not wear a Cowboys hat, but I will
No.
wear a
Wow.
Miami Dolphins
Maybe
hat.
you could wear a cowboy hat.
There we
No.
go.
There's
Yeah, change the logo.
I'll wear
We them
cowboy.
boys.
I'll wear cowboys underwear and just not white. That's
Yeah.
what I'll do.
All right.
So I will
So
wear
I'm
a
gonna-
It's a
Dolphin
family
tattoo.
show. It's a family
So
show.
all right, so to end the show, I'm gonna close it out by saying I agree with Jeff and I second his emotion with the fuck your team situation. We've talked about this many times. We have all been playing fantasy football for 20 years or so,
Years.
and it just becomes a thing that we don't care about anybody else's team or success. So it's going to be an interesting week with the Buymageddon. There's some low point projected totals out there. There should be like, don't expect much from your superstars that are playing with new quarterbacks that we talked about earlier. And until next Wednesday at 7:30, I am Clint for the commish, Big Jeff, Ian the Champ, fantasy football show, and football show with no name. We'll see y'all next week.